What's up, everyone? My name's Josh, and you're listening to the Music Reviewer podcast today. Episode 6 is going to be over the latest debut album by Haley Williams, Petals for Armor. The last episode was over the latest ELB record release called Earth, which ELB, if you're not aware, is one of the guitarists for Radiohead. So, thanks for stopping by. We'll get into this latest album review, or this latest album by Haley Williams. So, Haley Williams is a well known singer songwriter musician from Tennessee, best known for being of the band Paramore, which at this point, Paramore should really need no introduction. They are a um, pop punk alternative rock band formed in 2004 that has gone through some lineup changes throughout the years. The lineup changes started with the two brothers in the band, the drummer and the guitarist, the Farrell brothers, leaving. And even with these lineup changes throughout the years, I feel Paramore has remained a solid band in the alternative rock and pop punk landscape. Now, their sound has obviously changed as well with these lineup changes. When they first came about, really, they didn't get attention really until 2007. After being formed for about 3 years, their album release Riot, which featured songs like Misery Business, Crush, That's What You Get, um, really exploded and got them all the way to top 40 radio, actually. And it was actually something I remember happening at the time. I was probably about to start high school or just leaving middle school when I remember really actually being into Paramore. I had known them for a couple of years already, and I was really rooting for them to get some traction. And it's really because of the special qualities I saw in Haley Williams as a singer and as a front woman. Um, her vocal is her vocals and her talent is really unique, and it's no surprise to me that when this band was signed, um, it was really with the intention of making Haley Williams the star. And that's actually something that caused a lot of the lineup changes. The original founding members, I think, were betrayed or felt betrayed and left as a result of that. Now, over the years, they did keep their original bass player and then also another guitarist that was mainly just a touring member, who's integral in this Haley Williams' new album because he produced it. I believe his name is Taylor York. Um, the the band actually, you know, even with the departure of those founding members, which I believe were important. Zach Farrow is a great drummer, and it's he actually later joined the band with their latest album, After Laughter, but he was gone for quite a while. Um, it it's really no surprise to me that Paramore has kept their relevance. Now, personally, I feel like the band Paramore was integral to my exposure to a lot of alternative music. Starting back when I was in middle school, there was a channel that was around back then called Fuse, which was very similar to MTV, but at the time, Fuse actually was kind of an alternative to MTV, I would say, where they were more geared towards music instead of reality TV. Now, Fuse is completely different now. It has nothing to do with music anymore. But back then, there was some great show blocks that I would watch, like Steven's Untitled Rock Show, that exposed me to a, an invaluable amount of bands that I, till this day, are just stuck in my head. Mainly from the emo scene and I guess the hard rock scene as well. But one of these days, I discovered Paramore, and I think I remember seeing the music video for Emergency, which was on their debut album, All We Know Is Falling. Um, yeah, so um, just so everyone knows, I'm a little bit biased towards Paramore, which I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, Paramore is essentially Haley Williams. Now, which leads me to the the main, I guess, question on what this album is. Why is Haley Williams releasing a solo album now? Um, I guess some would say it's because uh, maybe Paramore wants to revert back to their original sound. Since their last album, they developed more into like an indie pop sound. Maybe they want to go back to that pop punk, like emo 2000 sound. To be honest, I don't really know um, really the main reason why Haley Williams is releasing a solo album um, than any other reason as to why the from the last review why an artist like EOB would be releasing a solo album. Maybe it's to break ground in a different audience that Paramore has yet to dive into or expose themselves to. Now, with this debut album by Haley Williams, some of it actually does sound like Paramore, but it also has a completely different aesthetic at the same time. Where this album has a lot of elements of bands like Radiohead, Bjork. Um, it, it's produced in a way where there's really no distorted electric guitars that you're used to hearing in Paramore. A lot of the album it revolves around bass guitar. It's just a bass guitar groove being laid down, and a lot of extra production and Haley's vocals on top. Now, another huge thing to point out here, which I mentioned earlier, is that Taylor York, one of the remaining members of the band Paramore, is producing the album. So, even more reason to ask, what is this solo album really trying to accomplish? And maybe it is a completely artistic choice. I think that's really all this is. When I listened to this album, at first, it wasn't really catching my ears. I expected more of the typical Haley performance that it usually includes this powerful vocal delivery, these charismatic lyrical content, and starting off with the song "Simmer." It's a little subdued. It's obviously sounds like Haley Williams, but I didn't really get any Paramore vibes just yet on this sound. Now, it does have a nice groove to it. It is very bass centric. It starts off with bass guitar, and it kind of is just a repetitive pattern played over and over again with some electronic elements. It is a little hooky. It is also the lead single, so this is probably going to be the song that most people listen to, and it's not a bad song at all. Now, the album does continue on this sort of poppy, experimental type vibe with the song Cinnamon. It actually gave me some vibes from the Fiona Apple album, the latest one. It's very percussive. Um, yeah, there's some vocal ideas that are played around by Haley Williams in the melody, but it does become really poppy as a progressives in the song. And another thing that I'd point out here is that the song features a nice dynamic contrast where some parts sound a lot quieter than the rest of the song. Um, those kind of things do appear a little bit more often in the album. The next album after that, Creepin', um, it's more poppy. It's more like modern alternative rock radio sounding, kind of like what you'll hear on Alt Nation on Sirius XM. There's a nice energy to it. It's almost 80s sounding as well. Um, and it is also a little subdued in this song as well. Um, the next song I think is quite interesting, Sudden Desire, which is the ending of the first part of this album. And the biggest takeaway I'd say is in the middle of the song randomly, Haley Williams sounds like Bjork. like that part where she's just singing "Sudden Desire." Um, it's pretty powerful, and I like the song a lot. And that's, I'd say, one part of the album I'd say disappointed me a little bit is that she's able to sound like Bjork, which that's incredible. Like, I'd say not many people in the world can do that. Why not do that a lot more? Why not do that a little bit more often? I'd like to see it. But the album keeps its momentum. After this, I'm liking it. It's the start of the next part of the album with the song Dead Horse. At first, I didn't think I was going to mention the song, but after listening to this album a little bit more, I think this is a cool song. It's probably one of the most accessible. Like, I can see this maybe being played eventually um, on the charts if it gets enough momentum. This has a very poppy chorus and a hooky lyric to it. It's a little bit Paramore sounding, which that's not a bad thing. I expected that in this album, but yeah, not a bad song on Dead Horse. Um, Now the album does kind of take a different direction. There is a bit of a R&B part of it that I think happens at some point in the second part. But there is a nice little song on here called Roses, Lotus, Violet, Iris. Yeah, this is a very much Radiohead influenced track. Um, Something maybe from, uh, I don't know, In Rainbows. Has nice string parts, has a laid back feeling, a really cool chorus, really good production. It's probably one of the highlights on the album. But that R&B aesthetic definitely hits hard on Why We Ever. There's like a slappy bass line to it, some light guitar, and a lovely canon harmony feature that's, I guess, featured in the song that I thought was really pretty. Like, there's not much that I hear featuring a canon in contemporary music nowadays. And yeah, that in Pure Love, that happens a little bit more. This R&B type side of Haley Williams. The album also starts feeling a little 80s like at points with song like Pure Love as well. The probably the lowest point on this album would be Sugar on the Rim. It's an electronic dance track almost. That just feels completely awkward. It sounds like she sang over like some stock electronic song, and it probably should have been left on the B sides or just not on this project because it. I really got nothing out of this. I feel like her vocal performance on here isn't necessarily that special either, which is surprising. Um, but the album does finish off, I feel, um, probably not as strong as I would like, but the last song, Crystal Clear, it's Paramore like as well. It's nice and light. There's some good dynamic contrast. It's a um, it's almost like like a dessert. Like it's a very nice song. Um, and also, I'd like to add that the "Watch Me While I Bloom" track is quite Bjork like as well. So if you are interested in that part of Haley Williams's catalog of tricks, yeah, check out that song as well. Overall, I did like this album. I'd say it's more of like a 7 out of 10 for me. The more I listened to it, the more I got it, the more I liked it. We'll see if this is the start of a successful solo career for Haley Williams. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this album is how can she separate the Paramore from the Haley Williams, because I think this album is going to be a success for her. Now, due to obvious issues going on in the world right now with COVID-19, she obviously can't tour on this album cycle for a while. So um, who knows if we'll ever really see a full scale and Haley Williams going to the full max of her potential on this album. Because I think this could have been more bigger of a success commercially if she was able to play live right now. So yeah, if you stuck around to the end of this review, thanks. I'm Josh, and I'm the music reviewer. I'll be reviewing some more music soon, and I'll see y'all later.